So Linda, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you please tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
Thank you, Nick, for having me here. I come from Pietermaritzburg. It's a town in KwaZulu-Natal, and grew up there and spent all my childhood in Pietermaritzburg.
And tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Interesting. My dream career was to become an architect. It's something I was in high school, and I remember having a conversation with my dad. And by then he was looking at extending our house, and I loved what he was doing with all the design and something new and something different for the home. And my dad was a builder. He used to be a builder. So with that influence, I said, I want to become an architect. So I did technical drawing in school, a subject that most of the boys did. I was the only girl in my class at that time that did the subject. So yes, my dream was to become an architect.
And Linda, can you tell us who inspired you in your early days?
In my early days, it was definitely my parents. My parents come from really humble beginnings. They were both blue-collar workers, and they always wanted to see their three daughters make the best of their career and have opportunities that they didn't have. So, they opened up our thinking in terms of what's the art of the possible. And, I remember growing up at the time, and we already had women inspirational leaders to look up to. So I am brought up in the era where Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of the UK. Indira Gandhi was the President of India. So I'm brought up in that era where you saw women presidents. And there I had my mum just saying, you know what, anything is possible with her daughters. Yeah.
Now, Linda, you're leading a very impressive career today. You are, in a way, architecting global supply chains, right? You won awards. You were very prominent on LinkedIn. Looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point, or maybe a number of turning points?
So, Nick, there were a number of turning points when I look at it. And each turning point always led to something new, something fresh, something exciting. But the one that's coming to mind now that I'm thinking of is when I moved from Pietermaritzburg. So I grew up in Pietermaritzburg. I studied there. I had my first two jobs there. And I moved up to Johannesburg. And Johannesburg at that time was the city of gold, Igoli. And coming from the small town, I want to go to the biggest city. And now go to the biggest city, I can do bigger things. And subsequent to that, I look at all the changes that have come with my career. It is always taking that leap and doing something courageous. So that was a big transition for me. And in something more recent, my big leap moving out of South Africa to the UK.
And Linda, I also believe you did courageous summiting of Mt Kilimanjaro. Can you tell us a little bit about that expedition?
Talking about courageousness. So Nick, I went through something beautiful during COVID. COVID was a time where there was just so much of fear. There was just so many unknowns, especially in South Africa. People were restricted in so many ways. And I went through a process where I was just so thankful for everything I had. I was thankful for my health. I was thankful for my family. I was thankful for the company that I work for. I just had so much of gratitude. And with that gratitude, I then asked myself, what can I give back, and what can I do, and how can I make a difference? And at that, it was, I remember Nando's was donating meals to a whole lot of communities at that time. And I linked up with Richard Mabasu from the Trek for Mandela organization. And he spoke about the work that he does for caring for girls. And he says, it is 2021. Unfortunately, we've had a problem with 2020. Girls could not have access to sanitary wear, and the girls are struggling to get into school. Now, I come from a home with 3 girls. I have a daughter. And I said, how can I make a difference to our future leaders in this country and these young women? And it touched my heart that there's these young girls, they cannot go to school for 5 days a month. How can I give back? So that's what led me up the mountain. That's the main reason. And the other one is I wanted to do something courageous. I started hiking. I started taking my health a little bit more seriously. And it was just a lovely combination to do something courageous for my health and to give back to the community with just living a life of thankfulness. Summited the mountain, which was a beautiful journey up there. When you summit, Nick, it literally felt I was in another planet. It was just so beautiful with the glaciers. And I tell you what was the most exciting thing for me. It was not just summiting Kilimanjaro. It was coming down and weeks later visiting the schools in the township, handing over the sanitary pads to these lovely girls, talking to them about their health, talking to them about the art of the possibility, being an inspiration for them, sharing with them that I was also that girl in that township. And if I could do what I have done, you could also do what you could do as well.
Now, Linda, I believe you're on the brink of doing another expedition, this time in Peru. You're about to summit Machu Picchu, correct? And
yes.
And also in support of women's rights and for the fight against GBV. Can you tell us a little bit more about this upcoming expedition?
Yeah, so it is something very, very close to my heart. I'm brought up in a community with gender-based violence. I'm brought up in a community where women have been suppressed. And now I am where I am to shine that light and give women hope. And I believe I am where I am to make a difference. And South Africa has a massive issue with gender-based violence. It's a shadow epidemic. It's many people do not speak about it. It's happening from women in career jobs to women in townships. It's just happening everywhere. And for me is what can I do about it? So I'm an activist for it. And now it's come, what action can I take? So something drove me to go to Machu Picchu. I was thinking of going to base camp Everest. But you know, when the universe talks, you got to listen. And so something is driving me to go to Peru. Machu Picchu is a very spiritual place. So I'll be hiking the Salcante Trail for 7 days through the mountain range. And then we end up in Machu Picchu. And why not do it for a cause very close to my heart? So I've partnered with the Tears Foundation. The Tears Foundation has been going on for many years. It's led by a beautiful lady that founded the business, Mara. She was a victim at one stage, and I love the work that they do. And for me is how can I raise funds? How can I raise the awareness to give access or to give women a platform where they can call for help? And the big one for me is how do we help these women with trauma healing? Because we help them with trauma healing, we help them become better versions of themselves so they can grow up our future leaders and they can be the best versions of themselves.
Linda, you're very active. You're obviously very active as a global leader at Nando's. You're also very active as a leader on LinkedIn. You're doing expeditions. You're doing so much. What is driving you? What is motivating you? And what is energizing you every single day?
Nick, I get up every morning and I'm thankful for everything I have. So one is just an attitude of gratitude. I'm just thankful for everything small, everything big. The second one is I'm a leader. I've come to where I've come through despite my past and the challenges being brought up during apartheid. It's for me, it's how can I give back and how I make a difference. Being a South African going over onto the global stage is something that I'm so proud of myself and I'm so thankful. So it's taking what I have and giving back to the community. And also, I just love my job. I work for an amazing company. We have amazing shareholders that got a passion of making a difference as well. And other than all the community stuff and making a difference to the world, I love driving for results, so that also excites me as well.
Now, Linda, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
It means many things. And I tell you what I mean by many things. It means many things because the world is changing. And summer rather, I feel from sort of 2019, things are changing at a rapid pace. And things are changing with this many uncertainties. Okay. And it's how do we adapt and how do we flex to those uncertainties? What do we have as a competitive advantage? What are we doing with innovative thinking? So for me is how do we set ourselves apart? How do we look at doing things differently? How do we adapt to change? And I think as leaders, we are faced with a different mode of bringing out the best in people. Because we need people. It's people that make our organizations fantastic. As much as I run a source manufacturing plant, which is equipment, it's still the people behind that equipment. And it's how do we bring out the best in people, number one. And number two is how do we manage the changes that are coming our way, whether it's AI, whether it's technology, whether it's having a competitive advantage, whether it's going the extra mile for our customers. What are all these things that we're flexing our muscle to just get better at?
Now, Linda, as a global leader who is building future leaders every single day, what can we do? What would you recommend? What should we do to develop and encourage and build more future leaders?
Yeah, Nick, that's a good question because I'm going to look at myself first. I'm going to look at myself, what I did to develop myself as a leader. And, they say leaders are born or leaders are made. My view is leaders are made. And why I say that is I look at my journey through the years, what I've been through as a leader. It doesn't mean to say you're a manager, you're a leader. That's something that I learned very, very early on in my career. I would say the first thing is how do we lead ourselves first? Before we lead other people, how do we lead ourselves? How do we lead our family? And then how do we lead people within our teams? And then how do we lead the community? But it starts with ourselves. It starts with ourselves. And I say for leaders is know thyself. Get to know yourself. What are your strengths? What keeps you, what gets you excited? What is your purpose? What drives you? What are the things that is holding you back? What are your limiting beliefs? What are your fears? What are things that are bringing you back with your self-confidence? Get to know that, get to understand that, get to unpack that. And then within that process, you develop a strong leader within yourself. So for me, it's how do we start with ourselves first? And once we start ourselves, being the leader within ourselves, we then are able to lead others.
Now, Linda, these are challenging times as the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges in their career that they should expect to encounter and hopefully overcome?
Yeah, Nick, and I know this all too well because from 2020, my team and our world got completely disrupted. Supply chains was impacted all over the world. So you first had COVID, you then got the Russian-Ukraine war that affected commodities around the world, it impacted shipping quite a bit. And then now you've got a whole lot of uncertainties that are just happening all over the world. I mean, what's happening with Israel and Palestine is affecting shipping that goes through the Suez Canal. So lots of dynamics are happening. And if I look at the common traits that we've had as a team, now the beauty of South Africans, and this is what I love about being South African, and somehow rather, we are built for this. And why I say we are built for this, we have been dealing with uncertainties before COVID. We know what it is to have infrastructure challenges. We know what it is to not have electricity, to have riots, to have water issues. And what we've done is we've flexed our muscle of adaptability. As South Africans, we've got a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And it's when you maneuver that because you've already planned for it in your head. And some things are unplanned. I mean, did we know on the 28th of March 2020 that the country is going to be shut down? No, we didn't. But some of the skills that we've done is, as teams, we harness together and we're immediately looking for solutions. And we're looking for solutions in a collective way and in a sustainable way. So those are some of the things that I will say leaders should be conscious of is, how are you preparing yourselves when change happens? And there is change that's totally beyond our control. But also the world is getting far more competitive. The world, things changed. Lots of countries around the world started to look at their supply chain, their sourcing, their trade. They are now looking at nearshoring. They're looking at localization. They're looking at all sorts of things. So I say to leaders and to companies, what are we doing to have that competitive advantage? What are we doing to be innovative? What are we doing to be flexible? What are we doing to be adapting to change? And these are all the superpowers and the strengths now leaders ought to have to take us to the future that's ahead of us. And then coupled with that is, how do we use technology? Now, everyone's been talking about technology and wonderful, but how do you use it to make yourself faster, to make yourself better, to make yourself smarter? And, I go back in my career, I worked at First Rand Bank. I used to head up the innovation program. FNB back then was the most innovative bank in the world. And why so is because they brought technology to make things faster, better, and simpler for their customers. And how do we apply that same thinking using the new technologies in the world we work for? Because that's what customers are looking for. Customers are looking for simplicity. People in work are looking for simplicity. So how do we use technology? And then the last one for me is, how do leaders bring out the best in people? And bringing out the best in people, making environments that are exciting, challenging, motivating, and adapting to different people's strengths. And why I say that as a leader, I cannot have one stroke for everybody. People got different strengths, people got different areas of passion, people got different areas of motivate. How do we as leaders tap into those and pull out the strengths and harness the strengths from our teams?
Now, Linda, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are maybe one or two key skills you would want to factor in and teach?
So I would say I'd love to talk about change and how people adapt to change. The second one is I'd love to talk about how you bring out the best in yourself to bring out the best in people. And I suppose the third one for me is how to be courageous within yourself and what's holding you back from being courageous. You got me thinking there, Nick, if I was teaching leadership.
That's an open-ended question, Linda. And you don't have to answer it now. You can answer it in a year's time if you wish. But you clearly strike me as somebody who is not only who's got a lot of leadership insights, but somebody who can share these in a way that you really connect with people.
Yes.
So Linda, here you are on top. I believe that's you, right? On top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
That is me, and I'm holding a flag of all the companies that sponsored me. I don't know if their names, you could see it over there, but I had so many generous sponsorships from so many companies around the world on that initiative.
And you're also looking for sponsors now, right? For your Machu Picchu expedition?
I am, indeed I am.
Good, we'll put out the call.
Every $5 makes a difference. $5 will give a victim access to a phone call that makes them feel comfortable. Or $5 will help a victim through the recovery stage when they're going for a medical checkup.
Right. And tell us, you're obviously also going up as a team, right?
I'm joining a group of people, that's right. Actually from around the world. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Linda, as a mentor to so many future leaders, Can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Yeah, I've got so many stories. I've got so many stories with that because what I found throughout my journey, as I was rising, something I consciously did is I consciously brought other women up with me. And if I look at some of the things, there's so many stories I can think of. I just couldn't think of one or two. But the ones that immediately come to my mind is women that doubted themselves, whether it was through studying or taking on that promotion, or whether they didn't feel they either had the experience. It's about sitting with them, building that self-confidence, coaching, mentoring them to say that they can do it. And I am there to support them. I am there to help them, and just take that risk. So there's been so many cases when I look at where women have shifted themselves, where women have literally left their jobs and opened small businesses, because I'm passionate about women in their careers, women developing their careers, and I'm passionate about women's small businesses as well. So I've got many examples where there is women in my team that had a side hustle, and I encourage women to have side hustles. My mom worked in a factory, and she had a side hustle that made extra money. And it's because of that extra money that it allowed us to have access to more things, despite our limitations. So I come across so many women that have these side hustles. I just look at, we celebrated Women's Day. It's a little bit late, but we celebrated Women's Day in September, because I think Women's Day should be every day. And, just going around chatting to all the ladies, we're just talking about what is our passion, what about drive. And half the room had some sort of small hustle they do in the side to make extra money. And I loved that. So I've got so many stories to share of where women left their permanent jobs when their small side business got a little bit bigger, and they went forward and took that small business further.
Well, sounds like there's a book forthcoming,
There's a
right?
book. There's a book. There should be a book.
Have you got a title yet?
I don't. When I think of the title, it's something around being courageous. It's about resilience. It's about going from South Africa to the world. It's just there's so many lovely things. There's so many lovely things with the book.
Well, one title that comes to mind would be The Courage to Lead, maybe.
There you go. Like that. I like that, Nick.
Now,
Thank you
Linda,
for that.
you're welcome. Linda, looking back over your career, are there any role models of leadership that you have encountered and maybe worked with, whom you would recommend future leaders should follow and learn from?
Nick, there's so many, and I say there's so many because there's so many leaders that had an impact on my career, and so many leaders that brought out the best in me. But I'm gonna name two people, and it's two people that are close to my heart. It's two people that I engage with on a regular basis, and those two people are Robbie Brosen and Fernando Duarte. And why I'm going to name them is because I look at these two gentlemen that started this brand in the late 80s, and they took this brand and they took it global. And what we can learn from them as leaders is they took courage. It took courage for them, in the late 80s, early 90s, South Africa was going through a very unsettling time. You got these two leaders that came together. Both of them have different strengths, and they both came together and complemented their strengths. And that's something I believe in as well. I believe in leaders should surround them with strong people that can complement their strengths. But I love the energy, the courageousness that they've done to take a South African brand globally, and risk. Right? It took risk. So I deeply admire our shareholders in South Africa that did do that.
Linda, where can our listeners follow you and how should they connect with you?
I am active on LinkedIn, and I have a passion on a few things. Firstly, I have a passion for lifting women and lifting and shifting women in whether it's business, whether it is in the corporate world, whatever it may be. I have stories on my personal journey as well in terms of my life. I've been a single mother, I've been married, I've been divorced, and a lot of people don't talk about these things. So anything women related, I have a passion for procurement with purpose and patiently done to support small businesses, because small businesses is the future. Nando's used to be a small business one day, and now we've gone global. And I'm passionate about taking South Africa to the world, what more we can do in South Africa, how we can take our talent, our creativity, our people, our businesses, our agriculture to the world. And I suppose the last part for me is conscious and mindful leadership. Because we're leading people, people come to work every day. How do we bring out the best in them? How do we give them cultures and environments that they thrive?
And last but not least, Linda, what is your message to the millions of learners out there who are about to finish school, start a career? What are maybe one or two success principles that they should keep in mind?
And I have a daughter that's fitting in that, right? She's just finished university, and she's right there. And something that I encourage her with is, I encourage her with just understanding herself and what excites her, and do what her heart wants her to do, and not what parents want her to do or society that wants her to do, but just look at where's she finding her energy, where's her strengths, what does she feel the world needs, where does she think she's going to really make a difference, what sort of sectors is aggregating to her. And I wish somebody told me this in my 20s. We didn't. It was a very different era then. It was getting a job. It was being about financially independent at an early age. But people coming up now, it's about just finding what excites you. And not everything is about being in the corporate world. I encourage a lot of young people, are you excited about starting a small business? Is there something that you can do to start something, and you never know where it could lead you? So that is my message for the young people. And then the other one is get to explore a bit, just to explore, because the more you explore with jobs, with people that you surround yourself with, the more you get to know yourself. And I suppose coupled with that is, you become who you surround yourself with. You become the environments that you are with. So just take some time, focus on that. Surround yourself with people that you one day want to be like. Yeah, that's my message to the young people.
Linda, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership, and for helping us in so many ways to build a better future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.